Hello guys to my channel Jonas Costali. I always do this movement. I did it from the beginning of my videos. I'm really happy to start shooting videos again. I've been with lots of stuff to take care of, so I haven't found time to shoot some videos lately, but I'm back here in my swiveling red chair. So I do the Michael Jackson thing, the samurai thing. And today I'm gonna talk about inferiority complex and somehow how is it connected to depression. And I made some notes here. And to begin with, I have to talk about the content as far as inferiority complex. There is history, causes, classifications, and effects. So first I'm gonna be reading here from a trustworthy source as far as inferior complex is concerned. But anyways, I just audio visually is the best way to explain something. But just like to watch a video and understand some stuff audio visually. So I will start by history. So I'm gonna read what the notes I took here, what I wrote down, and then we're gonna go from the explanation to the experience and then some examples that I had in my personal life of inferiority complex. Okay, so let me tell you first what history is about this inferior complex thing. So I'm gonna read for you guys and hope you guys like it. So history, let's begin at history. It says, stemming from the psychoanalytic branch of psychology, the idea first appeared among many of Sigmund Freud's works and later in the works of his colleague Carl Jung. Alfred Adler, founder of classical Adlerian psychology, held that many neurolytic symptoms could be traced to overcompensating for this feeling. Now, continuing. The use of the term complex now is generally used to denote the group of emotionally toned ideas. The counterpart of an inferiority complex, a superiority complex, is a psychological defense mechanism in which a person's feelings of superiority counter or conceal that feeling of inferiority. Now we go for the second of the cause, which is called causes. I'm gonna read the paragraph for you guys, right? Causes. It goes like that. An inferiority complex occurs when the feeling of inferiority are intensified in the individual through discouragement or failure. Those who are at risk of developing a complex include people who show signs of low self-esteem or self-worth, have low socioeconomic status, or have a history of depression symptoms. Children reared in households where they were constantly criticized or did not live up to the parents' expectations may also develop an inferiority complex. Many times there are warning signs to someone who may be more prone to the development of inferiority complex. For example, someone who's prone to attention and approval-seeking behaviors may be more susceptible. According to classical Adlerian psychology, the second inferiority feeling results when adults feel inadequate from desires to achieve an obtainable or unrealistic results. Let me turn the page. The need for perfection. Stress associated with feelings of failure or inferiority cause a pessimistic attitude and an inability to overcome difficulties in life. According to Adler, everyone has a feeling of inferiority, but the feeling of inferiority is not a disease. It is rather a stimulant to healthy, normal striving to development. It becomes a pathological condition only when the sense of inadequacy overwhelms the individual and, far from stimulating him to useful activity, makes him depressed and incapable of development. Now we go for classifications. Okay, let's go to classification. Classical Adlerian psychology makes a distinction between primary and secondary inferior feelings. So let's go with this one. It goes like that. A primary inferior feeling is said to be rooted in the young child's original experience of weakness, helplessness, and dependency. It can be intensified by comparisons to siblings, romantic partners, and adults. A secondary inferiority feeling relates to an adult's experience of being unable to reach a subconscious, reassuring fictional final goal to subjective security and success to compensate for the inferiority feelings. The perceived distance from that reassuring goal would lead to a negative, depressed feeling that could then prompt to recall of the original inferiority feeling. This composite of inferiority feelings, e.e., the original feeling recalled due to the secondary feeling, could be experienced as overwhelming. The reassuring goal invented to relieve the original primary feeling of inferiority, which actually caused the secondary feeling of inferiority, is the catch-22 of this dilemma. Desperate attempts to obtain therapeutic reassurance and delivery from the present feeling of inferiority and worthlessness may repeatedly fail. The vicious cycle is common in neurotic lifestyles. Now we go for the final thing here, which is called effects. Right, I hope you guys understand the way I'm reading it, like directly from the page here. So let's talk about effects. When an inferiority complex is in full effect, it may impact the performance of an individual, as well as impact an individual's self-esteem. Unconscious psychological and emotional processes can disrupt students' cognitive learning and negatively charge feeling, tone, memory. Associations can derail the learning process. Hutt found that math can become associated with a psychological inferiority complex, low motivation and self-efficacy, poor self-directed learning strategies, and feeling unsafe or anxious. In the mental health treatment population, this characteristic is shown in patients with many disorders, such as certain types of schizophrenia, mood disorders, and personality disorders. Moritz found that people suffering from paranoid schizophrenia use their delusions as a defense mechanism against the implicit self-esteem. Alfred Adler identified as an inferiority complex as one of the contributing factors to problem child behaviors. Individuals with increased inferiority feelings have a higher tendency towards self-concealment, which in turn results in increasing loneliness and decrease in happiness. Okay, that's the first part that I wanted to tell you guys about. And hold on there, I haven't finished yet. Let me have a little sip of my juice here. That was the first part. This one, this other part, I want to talk about something that I recently, like 4 or 5 months ago, I went through, and it made me really think about what complex inferiority really means. I was at one of these government, institutions. I was just waiting for my turn to be attended by a secretary who was there. All these people, especially in Brazil, I don't know, they look like they hate their jobs and they don't want to talk to anybody. So that's how it seems. And I noticed this guy sitting there on the corner, this slim, tall, white guy, and he was like lost in his thoughts. So as we were moving to be attended by the secretary, this guy, from his seat over there, he came and took his place right beside me. So we started on chatting, and man, I was really baffled how this guy described his life. His self-esteem was so low. He really felt miserable. So he, as far as I can remember, has got 3 children, and he works in a pet store. And he was telling me how miserable, unfortunate his life is. And I was just listening, right? And I asked him what was going on, what was so wrong about his work. And he was like, another guy came in, and this guy, before 1 year time, this guy was making 5 times more than his dude does. So I asked him, so is this guy who just started working there less than 1 year, who's making more money than you ever did in your whole life, is he a brown nose? Is his voice really giving him some advantage? I mean, do you know as much as him? To which this guy told me, he replied, man, I know so much more than this guy, and I can't believe he's making so much more money. So I was kind of confused, and then it came this thing about like, man, if you don't really value the things you do, if you have low self-esteem, you might be condemned to the same situation, right? I asked this guy, what prevents you from making, the same amount of money? And I asked him, is this guy doing something illegal, something unethical? And he tried to reply like, no, this guy's just a brown nose. I said, it's not possible, right? It was just on his head. He saw himself so low, and he sees himself so low, and his self-esteem is so low, that he seems incapable of really seeing worthy of receiving a higher salary, a higher payment than this dude who just came in and is working there together with him. So it's like, I couldn't believe it, and this experience made me really think about shooting a video to tell you guys, man, it doesn't matter whatever the word, the opportunities the word gives you or something. If you have low self-esteem, real low self-esteem, you will always see yourself from its vantage point of view, right? Everybody is better than you. Everybody deserves more. It's like a curse. It's a goddamn damnation. It's a curse, right? Something in your brain convinces you that you're inferior and that you're worthless. Therefore, it's almost like you're trying to manipulate things to get your way around, because you're not really worth of whatever someone is offering you, or job, position, whatever. And this leads me to my third and final explanation of the issue. Let me take a little sip of my juice here. production. Is everything okay? Is everything running smoothly? Everything okay? And now I'm gonna give you an example. How and I asked this guy before I finish up this part. I asked this guy, why do you think this other guy is making 5 times more cash than you? And is he superior to you? Is he such a superhero? To what he said, no, absolutely not. I know 10 times more than him. And then I asked him sarcastically, so why aren't you making the same amount of money or even more than this guy? To what he couldn't respond. He just felt, on that slouch position, feeling miserable. So that's what a inferiority complex does to you. So now, to finalize this, I read an article just the other day, and I think it's important to know that depression here is connected. Inferiority complex somehow is connected to depression. And in this article, I read that, well, forget about existentialism or philosophy, right? From a physiological standpoint, depression is something that happens to you organically, physically, right? Something your neurons are not connecting, your lack of serotonin, dopamine is not really correct. So it's like, I read this article when there is some example that you have a high heel, right? And you have this Beetle, this old car Beetle, and a Ferrari, and both cars are trying to drive up the hill. And suddenly, what happens is the Ferrari, as you might not really believe it, the Ferrari, the engine starts to stutter, like, and it stops halfway up. And then this old Beetle, this car, this jalopy, it drives all the way up to the mountain. And for people who are witnessing the event, they might think, why in hell an old Beetle would beat a nice Ferrari? It's not because of what's in the outside, the appearances. It's because of the engine, which is the heart of the car, right? So now I'm gonna talk about this guy, which I love his channel. His name is Jason Silva. Jason Silva is the Emmy-nominated host of National Geographic hit TV series Brain Games, seen in over 160 countries. He is the creator of Shots of All, with over 300 million views across platforms. Jason is an intellectual keynote speaker. So this guy, Jason, he says something, one of his videos I was really fascinated. He says that depression, for example, as I said, is not something about existentialism or philosophical theories or whatever. It's purely something physiological. It happens to you in your body. So depressed people, they wear thick dark glasses, and it doesn't matter if you try to cheer them up, it won't happen. They can't. And Jason Silva suggests in one of his interviews with Hugh Lewis, another fantastic guy, that the only way for you to, because depressed people, they pretty much, that's what happens. It's a thought that goes back and forth, like rhythmically, in a very, high speed. Either you're like ruminating what happened in the past, or you are desperate for what the future is going to bring about. So you're like desperate. So you're never in the present moment. So Jason suggests something like comical, but it's true. He says, tie this person with ropes like this way, and throw him off an airplane in Botswana, in one of these African countries, and when he hits the floor, suddenly for the first time he's gonna be living in the present time, because everything is new around him. He's not ruminating about the past, and he's not like fear-stricken by the future. So in that moment, he's really experiencing what happens in the moment here, the present time, and that's a way to cure, let's say, depression. So he mentioned something like you gotta slam the glass that person is wearing, so that he or she can see the real thing, the real now, the things that happen right now in front of them. So, and I found it like amazing, because I myself have gone through that, right? Because it's pointless for you to be ruminating about the past, what happened, and you dwell in there, your life is frozen, or you were terrified about the future, what's coming your way. You don't have any control whatsoever about it either. So you might as well stay here in the present. So that's why I'm not saying that conventional treatment or medicine may not help someone. It has its value. The pharmaceutical industry loves it, right? But the truth is that a depressed person would need this experience to really start to free themselves of this goddamn curse, this jail, right? So that's what I talk about today, as far as inferiority complex versus depression. And guys, I hope you like it. Give a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, right? And I hope to keep on bringing you guys new contacts all the time, right? So that was my brief experience on inferiority complex versus depression, and I hope you have enjoyed this video. Thumbs up, subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.